The 2025-26 snooker season is here, with new rivalries, returning legends and rising stars. This one could be a classic. With a new world champion and the first ever Chinese winner, the class of 92 still all within the top 5 in the world rankings, and a feeling that Judd Trump and Kyren Wilson have something to prove this campaign, here's everything you need to know going into the new season, players to watch and some bold predictions. Last season was an intriguing one. Yize won the world title, the first ever Chinese and the first ever amateur to do so. Shaun Murphy won his first Triple Crown title in exactly 10 years by winning the Masters in January, and Judd Trump won his second UK title, 13 years after his first. Kyren Wilson was the most prolific ranking event winner with 4 titles, while world number 1 Judd Trump clinched 2, and John Higgins saw a return to form by winning the World Open and Tour Championship. Zhao Guodong, Tom Ford and Li Pai Fan all won maiden ranking titles, but the Rocket Ronnie O'Sullivan had a poor campaign by his standards, ending in an uncharacteristic semi-final defeat to Zhao Xintong. He was clearly struggling with his game and a new cue after smashing his previous one in January, so the question is Ronnie done? I really expect Kyren Wilson to continue his ascent in snooker. He won 4 titles last season, and I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't win at least 2 or 3 this season, including a Triple Crown title. His game has become so strong, and I think he's coming into his prime. You'd also be a fool to bet against Judd Trump picking up titles. He's a serial winner, and I think he will continue to behave like one. Will Zhao Xintong go into this season by continuing to smash his way into the elite? Well, I actually think he might struggle. He's a top player, no doubt, but the expectation will be huge, and I'll be interested to see how he does. I still back him to win a tournament or 2 though. And for Ronnie, he's currently 17th in the provisional Crucible list, so he has a lot of money to defend this year if he wants to be seeded for the World Championship. I think he'll do it though. Looking at the world rankings, it's a little difficult to predict whether there will be a rising star this season. Yize is the obvious choice, but it already seems like a lot of snooker fans have their eye on this guy. Aside from Wu, if I had to put my finger on a player who I think could have a really good season, it would be Joe O'Connor. I think he is quietly improving as a player, and after reaching the World Open final last season, it could be the season where he wins his first major ranking event. If you're enjoying this video and you love snooker, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'm on a push to get 500 subscribers as soon as possible, which will help me massively with building a community and bringing you the best content I can possibly make. Let's get into the meaty part of the video. The dark horse of the season. Now let's talk dark horses, the player who could surprise a few people this season. For me, it's Stuart Bingham. He's already a former world champion, a Masters winner, and has one of the smoothest cue actions on tour. But what really makes him one to watch for me is the fact he's now got a new cue, and sometimes that small change can reignite the fire. When Stuart's motivated, he can compete with anyone, and with a fresh cue, there's a real chance to be putting in the practice hours and going deep in events again. Quietly, he's also ranked 14th on the provisional Crucible list. That's 3 places above Ronnie O'Sullivan, which shows you he's already building something. Don't be surprised if Bingham lifts a ranking title this season. He's still got the class, and maybe now the hunger. The Luca Brecel segment. It actually boggles my mind that this time 2 years ago, Luca Brecel had just won his first world title. He made just 12 centuries last season, with 5 of them coming from the World Championship, which again boggles my mind, and the fact he's down to 39th on the world rankings highlights his fall from grace. I really thought that Luca would have pushed on to become a top 4 player, and although I didn't envisage him having the consistency of a Judd Trump or Ronnie O'Sullivan for winning titles, I definitely thought he would have added to his list of majors by now. So where do we go from here? Well, at the time of recording this, Luca has just pulled out of the British Open qualifiers, having not shown up for his Wuhan Open qualifier against Harris Tahir on the 22nd of June. These are not good early signs. Hopefully, Luca is preparing for the long season and just isn't ready to start competing yet, with a focus on the bigger events during the winter, and we will see a return to form. If we don't, it could be a difficult task for Luca to keep his tour card with his current trajectory, which for a player with his talent is crazy. The Triple Crown winners. It's so difficult to predict who is going to win specific events, because there's no form guide at the moment to refer to. However, because I'm a snooker YouTuber and somewhat of an amateur pundit, in my eyes anyway, I'm going to stick my neck out and predict the winners of all 3 Triple Crown events. First up, the UK Championship. I feel like out of the 3 tournaments, this one springs the most surprises. I expect Judd Trump to have a strong defence of his title, but he's never been that good in York by his own volition. If I had to pick a winner, I'd go with Kyren Wilson. I just think he will be bang up for winning another of the game's huge events, and it might help him go the extra step into attempting to be world number 1, which I think is something he's after. At the Masters, I think the Rocket will turn up and will have a good solid tournament. However, I think he might be pipped by Mark Selby, who is my tip for the Masters in 2026. Selby is due a big Triple Crown event, and I just feel the Masters might be the one he's most likely to win nowadays. And the World Championship? Well, I'm not going to give that away yet, because I'm going to speak a bit about it in my next section, my bold claims. My first bold claim is that Judd Trump will fail to win a Triple Crown event this season. He's such an elite player, but I feel like sometimes he doesn't always turn up in the biggest events. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the pressure and expectation, or the fact he plays and wins so many events, but whatever it is, it seems to be true. My second bold claim is that Mark Allen will continue to struggle and may even drop out of the top 16 at some stage this season. Mark's performances last season saw him drop to 15th on the 1-year list and have a pretty underwhelming season. His quality is undoubted, but I think he's become too negative, too 1980s in his style. If he is to get back to world number 1 and the elite, I think he needs to change his style back to what it was 2 or 3 years ago. My third and final bold claim, drum roll please, is that Ronnie O'Sullivan will win his 8th world title in 2026. I know, the past season he has been nowhere near his best, and several members of the snooker community have begun questioning his future at the top. However, I have watched snooker long enough to recognise these patterns. In 2012, after over 3 years without winning a ranking event, he returned to win the 2012 German Masters and World Championship. In 2013, after a year out, he returned to retain his world title. Nobody thought he could do that. In 2020, after being written off to never win another world title, he returned post-Covid to win his 6th. And then in 2022, his 7th. It was only 18 months ago that he won 3 consecutive major events, the 2023 UK Championship, 2024 Masters, and then the 2024 World Grand Prix. I don't think the rocket is done yet.
Don't ever doubt me. Don't ever tell me that I'm gone. I will let you know when I'm gone. And now ain't the time. I will say when it's over is when it's over. But they don't have to doubt me.
And do you know what? I'll even make another claim as part of this one. I expect Ronnie to get his revenge over Xiaozin Tong, and if I get this right, I should probably do the lottery. But my claim is that the final will be the 8th world title versus the Crucible Curse, with the 8th world title coming out on top. However, what if the Class of 92 drop off? Here's a scenario I don't think many snooker fans are prepared for, but it could happen. What if this is the season that the Class of 92 finally drop off? What if Ronnie, Higgins and Mark Williams all go without a title and finish outside the top 8 or even the top 16? It's not impossible. Higgins is still capable but can be inconsistent. Williams has hinted at poor eyesight, and Ronnie, while still magic, is battling age, form and fitness. These 3 have dominated snooker headlines for over 2 decades. If they all fade at once, it could mark the true end of an era. How would the sport respond? Could the new generation carry that same level of narrative, drama and star power? And would fans embrace a post-Class of 92 world or long for what they have just lost? It's something worth thinking about, because that day is coming. The only question is whether it's this season. For what it's worth, I don't think it will be. As I've said, I think Ronnie will win the World Championship. But as for the other 2, who knows? And finally, my top 8 by the end of the season. The current world rankings, as you can see on the screen, are Judd Trump in 1st, Kyren Wilson in 2nd, John Higgins in 3rd, Mark Williams in 4th, O'Sullivan 5th, Ding 6th, Selby 7th and Robertson 8th. So here are the current official world rankings alongside the provisional World Championship seedings for the World Championship in 2026. As you can see, there's no Ronnie O'Sullivan on the provisional 16. Xiaozin Tong is locked in and will be seeded first, but this isn't about that. It's about who I think will be ranked in the top 8 by the end of this season. I'm 99% sure Ronnie will do enough to be seeded for the Crucible. He's just too good not to be, even if he doesn't play at his best. And as I've said, I reckon he will win the World Championship in 2026, so he should be well inside the top 8. Without further ado, this is my predicted top 8 in 12 months' time. The world number 1, shock, will be Judd Trump. The world number 2 will be Kyren Wilson, no change there. The world number 3 will be Mark Selby. I expect him to have a good season and win the Masters. World number 4, the world champion, in this scenario, Ronnie O'Sullivan. World number 5, the current world champion in real life, Xiaozin Tong. I think he'll be the World Championship runner-up, but I also expect him to have a very good and consistent season. World number 6, John Higgins. A strong 24-25 season will keep him high up the rankings. World number 7, Mark Williams. I expect him to be consistent, but with poor eyesight, maybe declining form, I think he'll be overtaken by a few. And world number 8, Shaun Murphy. I think his game is improving again, and I think he'll be super consistent. So there we have it, my 2025-26 season predictions. If you've enjoyed the video, please give this a like and subscribe if you hadn't already, and I'll see you in the next one.